The film begins by introducing a peaceful kingdom ruled by a virtuous king and queen who longed for a child. A blizzard one winter night ushers in the birth of their daughter, whom they name Snow White. Her parents teach her to rule with love and to understand that the kingdom's bounty belongs to all who tend it. As she grows into a kind and fair young princess, tragedy strikes when her mother, the good queen, dies. The grieving king eventually marries an enchanting beautiful woman from a far-off land, unaware that she is evil and obsessed with her own power and beauty. The new queen keeps a magic mirror that she consults daily with the question, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror always answers that the queen is the fairest. The evil queen consolidates her power by warning of an external threat, causing the king to leave to defend his people. He never returns. Fear allows the queen's power to grow. She turns the farmers into soldiers loyal only to her, plunders the kingdom's riches, and reduces Snow White to a servant locked within the castle walls. Snow White remains safe only because the mirror continues to declare the queen the fairest. Years pass and the people nearly forget their princess. Snow White, performing her chores, encounters a village boy attempting to steal from the palace. He tells her that the people are hungry and encourages her to stop wishing and start doing to help her people, believing she, the forgotten princess, would want to share the kingdom's wealth. Snow White, inspired by his words, approaches the evil queen to suggest they share the apples to make pies, hoping to give the struggling people a small kindness and belief in something more than mere subsistence. The queen cruelly dismisses this as luxuries that confuse the people, claiming they want a diamond, something hard and unyielding, not a flower. The same boy, the bandit, is then caught pilfering and brought before the queen. He boldly states he is the boss of bandits, loyal to the one true king. Snow White tries to appeal for mercy, arguing the punishment shouldn't exceed the crime, and invokes her father's memory. Infuriated by this insubordination and the mention of the late king, the queen overrules Snow White, ordering the bandit to be stripped of his coat and boots and bound to the gates to freeze. A horrified Snow White pleads for him, but the queen forces her to look at her subjects from the window, mocking her world of wishes and telling her to go back to her well. Later, Snow White attempts to give the imprisoned bandit her coat. He encourages her to run away, but she says she can't leave the kingdom. He tells her she saw the queen's cruelty firsthand and must flee. That day, the queen consults the magic mirror once more, but this time the answer is different. The mirror declares that a lovely maiden it now beholds, Snow White, is more fair than the queen. Consumed by rage and jealousy, the queen summons her huntsman. She accuses Snow White of plotting against her and orders the huntsman to take the princess deep into the forest, kill her, and bring back her heart in a box as proof. The huntsman, though clearly reluctant, complies. In the forest, Snow White attempts to pick an apple, unaware of the huntsman's true intentions. As he raises his knife, the huntsman hesitates. He can't bring himself to kill her. Instead, he confesses the queen's plot, warns Snow White that the queen is mad and will stop at nothing, and urges her to flee into the woods. When Snow White asks about her father, the huntsman tells her she was never told the truth and forces her to run before he changes his mind. Terrified, Snow White flees deep into the dark, terrifying forest, eventually stumbling upon a small, charming cottage. Inside the cottage, she rests until the residents return. 7 miners: Bashful, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Sneezy, and Doc, singing "Hey Ho." The miners are initially startled by the human intruder, mistaking her for a ghost or an ogre. They discover she is Snow White, the princess who is on the run because the queen tried to kill her. Grumpy is suspicious, thinking she is trouble, but the others are kind and offer her a place to stay just for one night. Snow White learns that the miners are as old as the trees and are responsible for mining the sparkling gems in the land where magic still abides. She takes charge of their messy home, teaching them to work together and find joy in their chores through the song "Whistle While You Work." She also helps the non-speaking Dopey find his voice by teaching him how to whistle. The miners begin to listen to one another and their home transforms into a cheerful place. However, the queen soon learns from the magic mirror that the fairest Snow White is still alive, living far beyond the castle wall somewhere in the woods. Enraged, the queen decides to handle the matter herself, proclaiming all is fair when you wear the crown and vowing to find Snow White. There was a peaceful kingdom ruled by a virtuous queen and king who welcomed their daughter Snow White. They taught her to rule with love and fairness. After her mother's death, her father remarried an evil queen who was obsessed with her own beauty and power maintained by a magic mirror. The new queen sent the king away and seized power, turning the populace into loyal soldiers and robbing the kingdom's riches. Snow White was made a servant. Years passed until the magic mirror declared Snow White the fairest, prompting the queen to order her huntsman to kill the princess. The huntsman, however, confessed the plot and urged Snow White to flee into the forest. Snow White found a small cottage where she met the 7 miners: Bashful, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Sneezy, and Doc. Though initially suspicious, they allowed her to stay. Snow White brought warmth and order to their lives, teaching them to work happily together by singing "Whistle While You Work." She learned from them that there were bandits in the forest claiming loyalty to her father, and she resolved to find them, hoping they knew her father's fate. She determined it was time to stop hiding and pursue her destiny despite the miners' warnings of danger. She encountered the bandit, a young man named Jonathan, the one she had helped escape earlier. He and his associates, who were actually disgruntled former actors and civilians, initially maintained a cynical, self-serving attitude expressed in the song "Princess Problems," where Jonathan dismisses her ideals of kindness and fairness as irrelevant to their desperate reality. When the queen's guards found them, Snow White refused to flee alone. Jonathan, showing a spark of the loyalty he claimed, got shot protecting her as they lured the guards away. Snow White brought the wounded Jonathan back to the miner's cottage. She convinced the disparate groups, the cynical bandits and the cautious miners, to trust each other, reminding them that the queen wins by making them fight among themselves. Doc successfully treated Jonathan's wound, saving his life. That evening the two groups bonded through a lively celebration. A conversation with Happy revealed to Snow White that Jonathan had deliberately taken the arrow for her, forcing her to recognize his hidden courage and the fact that he was not just a selfish thief. This acknowledgement led to the tender duet something there where Snow White and Jonathan realized their mutual attraction and shared vision of a better future. When the soldiers approached again, Jonathan decided to leave to draw the guards away from the cottage, promising to return in 2 days so they could journey to the southern kingdom to find her father. He gave her a necklace as a promise to return. The queen, learning Jonathan was protecting Snow White, forced the location of the cottage out of him. She then transformed herself into a haggard old woman and sought out Snow White. Presenting herself as a messenger from a captured Jonathan, the queen offered Snow White a poisoned apple to sustain her on the road to her captured friend, ensuring Snow White would take a bite by invoking her father's generous spirit. Snow White accepted the apple and bit into it. The queen revealed her true identity and her plot, confessing that she had murdered Snow White's father. The magic mirror, no longer constrained by the presence of a living Snow White, finally told the queen the truth. Her beauty was only skin deep, while Snow White's came from within. The queen then plunged into the mirror, which shattered, leaving the queen lost to the fragmented pieces. Meanwhile, Jonathan and the huntsman, now freed, worked together to secure horses and returned to the cottage. They found Snow White seemingly dead, still holding the poisoned apple. Overcome with grief and love, Jonathan kissed her. The true love's kiss broke the spell and Snow White awoke. She learned the terrible truth of her father's murder and resolved to fulfill her destiny. Inspired by her courage and Dopey's first words of resolve, "We're not afraid." Not anymore. The miners and Jonathan's company united behind her. Snow White, surrounded by her new allies, marched to the castle gate, where she confronted the former farmers who had been turned into the queen's soldiers. She used her deep, genuine memory of their kindness, their families and their former lives as people of the Western Vale to remind them of who they truly were. The soldiers laid down their weapons, turning on the queen's captain. The queen, now stripped of her army, was banished from the kingdom by the people she had oppressed. The magic mirror, restored to its position, delivered a final message. Snow White's beauty came from deep within, and she would always be more fair than the queen. The story concludes with the peaceful kingdom being governed by the virtuous Queen Snow White, who ruled with the kindness and love her parents taught her, embodying the true meaning of a fearless, fair, brave and true leader. The kingdom, now free from the queen's tyranny, began to heal under Queen Snow White's guidance. Her first acts were to restore the values of her parents: kindness, fairness and shared bounty. She opened the palace stores to the people, ensuring no one went hungry, and began dismantling the oppressive structures the evil queen had put in place. The soldiers, no longer forced into cruel service, returned to their homes and fields, bringing life back to the Western Vale and other neglected corners of the kingdom. The 7 miners, now known throughout the land as the queen's loyal friends and advisors, continued their work, but the gems they mined were now used for the common good, not the queen's selfish accumulation. Jonathan and his associates, the former bandits, became integral to the new government. Jonathan's practical knowledge of the people's suffering, combined with his natural courage and leadership, made him an invaluable partner to the queen. He shed his cynical view of the world, having witnessed Snow White's unwavering faith in others prove stronger than the queen's calculated cruelty. The relationship between Snow White and Jonathan blossomed, founded on their shared belief in the kingdom's potential and their mutual willingness to fight for it. Their story, once one of a princess waiting for rescue and a thief looking out for himself, transformed into one of 2 partners who saved each other and their kingdom through trust and conviction. The people were reminded that the true strength of the kingdom lay not in walls of stone or reserves of gold, but in the unity and spirit of its citizens. They had been given a new reason to hope, led by a queen who remembered their names and their struggles. The shadow of the evil queen, though a stark reminder of the dark period the kingdom endured, ultimately served to highlight Snow White's virtues. She taught her people that their voice, once just a whisper of a wish, was a powerful tool when spoken with a fearless heart. Snow White's reign was marked by the peaceful return to the values of her childhood, proving that true power lies in love and service, making her forever known as the fairest queen in the land. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.